Hello.
Hello.
Loud and clear. Welcome everyone to Indica Social. Thank you for showing up. And my name is Vishi Pucha. Through Indica Social, we wanted to create a think tank platform where we can regularly kind of collaborate, talk, and discuss our works, take some learnings, take some wins and what we could do better, and then we kind of put ourselves up there so that we can form our own community. So today we got two segments to this event. First one is the real roundtable. I'll be introducing the panel shortly. That will give us hopefully some of the answers to most of the questions we have. So that's the goal of today's Indica Social. So let me start off asking a simple question that is not at all related to this. What's the last good film you have seen in the recent past that you feel like I would like to recommend to someone?
There's a film called 27 Down. It was made by a very young filmmaker. His life was cut short pretty early.
It's Oppenheimer for me. Something stood out for me in Oppenheimer, which was it felt like a 3-hour long music montage.
As a critic, I just saw yesterday actually the upcoming film The Brutalist by Reddy. If I want to just point out one Indian film that I out here, there's a film called Stolen that played at the Venice Film Festival last year.
It's a noir film called Red Rock West. Nicholas Cage is a lead actor.
I think the last good Telugu film that I saw was 35. And I really liked that film. No, I'm not saying because you're here. But genuinely, I really liked that film. And
I would like to name actually two, not just one. I watched last week a movie named Tip that's made by Austin.
Oh, yeah. Fantastic. The other one is that's back in May, if I'm not wrong. It's called Smoke Check Pro. That's also Texas has got some talent.
That's good. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. What makes you feel like you're working on an idea or a story that this is my next story I want to tell the world? Or
When you have an idea, it also comes with a couple of scenes or something. You have a certain vision, and this looks very like a setup. This looks very interesting. I want to make a movie out of it. But if the idea it does not have a theme, it does not have a meaningful point to make, meaningful story. If it's not translating into that, that's not a right idea. You work for a feature film. For me, this is the biggest struggle phase. Coming with the right idea, because you have to be really sure that that's the film you want to work on, because a lot of you might agree, you're going to stay with it for the next at least 2 years, 2-3 years, sometimes even more. So make sure that's something you're going to love.
so when I'm directing something, so yeah, the idea is to stick with me. But if I'm planning to produce something, then I go with my gut instinct. It's the first instinct. So throughout the journey of this 1 year or 2 years that you're traveling with the film, so whenever I start having doubts, so I go back to the first idea that I heard. The gives me the reason why I've chosen the film.
I like to think about a theme. I mean, I would like to come up with a theme before diving into the actual storytelling part. So is the theme exciting? So I try to sleep on it for a week. I try to revisit after a month, because after a week, sometimes they become stale. They don't excite me after a month. If I go back, if it still excites me, okay, then this theme is worth pursuing, and that's when I try to see if I can infuse a nice conflict that gives me a good beginning, midpoint, and an ending. So that's how I begin, writing a story. And then, it's all connecting the dots in between.
What I've noticed is that it's not just one idea. For every film that gets made, there's 20 that don't. They piles of scripts at home. You may realize that, this is my passion project. This is the one I really want to make, but I also have to pay the bills, or I need to, get a little bit of experience. And this other project might not be my dream project. I still have feelings for it, and I want to get it made, so that will at least, I have a crew, and I have new relationships with people who can start getting the next project Go.
What I focus on now is that if I have a concept or a theme or an idea that's stuck with me, first thing I'll try to do is that, is it something I want others to watch and appreciate, or is it something if I watch by myself alone, I'll be blown away. And the second thing is, which I'm learning, as I'm progressing in the career, that, and this goes also a bit into pitching, that apart from theme and concept, I need to absolutely know who the movie is about. Who are the protagonists, who's the antagonist, who are these people I'm trying to talk to and have them talk to my audience later on. Because the better I know them, the better the film will turn out. It will become concept and genre flexible. And third thing is obviously, like he said, there are some concepts and themes, like obviously even I have some sci-fi fantasy ideas that I know I can't pull through right now. So I need to push them off and wait for the time to come when I can execute a project of such a scale.
The way Akash pitched it to me, and his personal connection to that, when I saw the passion, then I could see the end result is that if you put the same passion in the filmmaking, then it will turn out to be a good film. And that was the confidence that I had. I'm trying to bring the same concept to the different ideas that float in my mind.
My follow-up question would be that we are in this time where attention span is just going down and down and down. With this scenario, would it force you to package your story that it is still be able to be watched by more people and can grab their attention and can still fall into those market standards? Does that play at all, or how do you approach it?
I think we just have to make the story so strong. I mean, tell a story beautifully. So I think spending more time on writing something beautiful will automatically translate onto the screen. And if you are telling something honestly, then I think people will connect to the honesty with which the film was made and with which the story was told.
If you have an ambitious idea, and then it costs you, it needs or it demands more resources to be told on the screen, that's where you think about catering it to larger section of audience. Do I have enough audience to watch my movie, to enjoy? So I think that's where these parameters come into picture. Okay, how do I package the movie? What else do I need to add, or what kind of ingredients do I need to add to make it more appealing to massive audience, rather than catering it to movie goers who are just into storytelling rather than other things of the filmmaking. So I think that's a fine balance. People are still trying to figure that out.
I admire the filmmaker Sukumar, right? And he said in an interview that when I'm writing a scene and I'm thinking, will this become an Instagram meme? So that's the reality. You can't escape from it. But when you watch his films, like really personal films, he's making a statement of his own, but also they're a massive blockbuster. I think there's something to learn from there. I mean, if we pretend like the attention span issues or these things do not exist, that's not going to help.
I'll play the devil's advocate a bit, because having been in and out of pitch meetings over the last couple of years, there's so much infrastructure and logistics and money that goes into the process itself that the packaging becomes very crucial. Because when we are pitching to a studio, they are looking at demographic groups and seeing what will work, what won't work, will it work in this city, that town, that village, this age group. So when that kind of statistics is to be applied for something that we're going to spend a whole thousands of dollars on, it's important how the packaging is. But I'll agree with others that underneath the packaging, the honesty of the story is what will ultimately sell it. But the packaging is very, very crucial for the first stages of pitching the movie or taking it on a bigger level, unless you're not self-funding it and making it on your own.
Reddy's piano, I liked the idea. I thought, okay, if we build this, they'll buy it. And that did not happen. So at the end of the day, I think I'll have to face the reality that a film is a product. And customers are there for real. I mean, somebody who's paying money to watch a film, you have to respect that. So if I have an idea, perhaps then maybe my next thing would be to get some focus groups and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking about, what would you like to see?
Thank you guys for giving an optimistic answer for my pessimistic question.
So my next question is like a two-part question. How important are collaborations? And then how do you take this belief of where you start from, you need to continue with that team while you're scaling up as well?
So collaborations are absolutely important. I think that's one of the very crucial things on a film set. But the bigger the set gets, more things are out of my control. So if it's a 40 people crew, there's so much going on that as a director, if I can't completely depend on the DP for certain things or on some other crew member, the product would not turn out good. Like even if I have a vision in my head, when I watch the edit or when I watch the final cut, it will look different from how I imagine. So it's very important that we collaborate with the right people, and once those bonds or those relations are formed, the best hope is to take them forward, and as you scale up, they scale up with you. So team becomes absolutely crucial.
You know, why do we tell stories? Right? A lot of times it's because like they are introverts and you know they want a way to express the what's in their mind. Right? At least myself, a little bit shy, a little bit introvert. But then when it comes to filmmaking, this is all different kinds of people you need to work with. Collaboration is like whether it is important or not is the next question, but it is essential. You cannot make a film without collaboration.
So, these collaborations can keep changing, but you always need to have a support system is what I feel. Where, maybe not you write with one writer all the time, maybe not this writer, another writer, but whoever it is, we just have to find somebody who's in sync with you, with your idea, and then try to set up a team, and then a team who can understand your vision, and then that's the way you can scale it up. Like if it comes to me, so as a director, I mean, I've watched a lot of large scale films, but I have no idea, how to scale it up. In independent filmmaker, I don't know the hands-on experience of using a lot of equipment, but when I get to work with a bigger cinematographer, his vision or his experience helps me in scaling up my product, my vision to 10 times more than what I imagined. Finding and collaborating with different people is also very important. We shouldn't also be, I suggest people that we shouldn't be getting into the comfort zone all the time, because I'm sorry to take examples, but if I want to do something of Game of Thrones, I need to have 10 writers who have 10 different visions to get those kinds of subplots to make it that big. So if I'm collaborating just with one person all the time, so then it's going to be monotonous. And we just can't be somebody that, okay, I know everything, I should be doing everything. So we have to get people to get different perspectives, adapt, and then take in everything, and then what is that called, like a prism, put it out, throw it out, and then put everything through your vision. Rajamani Garu has been doing as well, he's broken his pattern, learned, unlearned, and then again learned. So this process of learning and unlearning happens when you're collaborating with different people and learning from different people, expanding your knowledge. That's very important as well, I feel.
It's an old thing to say, but it takes an army to make a movie, right? So rather than hiring an army, I would say build an army. So what's the difference? Again, I would like to bring my example, because most of the fellow filmmakers here go through my journey, meaning from short films to making an indie and then followed by that to a feature. The journey, that's more important than anything. So while you're crossing various hurdles, when you're making short films, you start by yourself because you don't know anyone, you don't know anything about filmmaking, obviously. And then, once you start your journey, if you're persistent, you are learning craft, 1% at a time, even if you're making 100 short films. If you're not making the same mistake again and again, you're getting better at your craft. By doing that, you're also networking, you're also reaching out to other people, and people start noticing your craft and they would like to collaborate. So you're actually earning the deserving collaboration instead of you reaching out and they don't know what you're up to, right? So these collaborations, they happen in every phase. But what I believe in is you should be persistent with what you do, with whatever craft of filmmaking you take up. See if you can build a resilient ecosystem around you, meaning always there are bounce boards, right? So people collaborate, they might like you, they might hate you, they might just go off the radar after the first project they work with you. But always try to have ecosystem around you, a bounce board like system, which is most critical than any other source from outside. So they literally have to rip your work apart. You know, they are brutally honest with what you do day in, day out with the filmmaking. So they don't, trust me, they don't have to be from the film fraternity. Even your wife, for example, my wife is a brutal critic. She literally rips my every shot actually. So because you need a reception and feedback from the audience as well, not always from the filmmaking community, right? So see if you can build that, you maintain that, respect that ecosystem, and also reach out to people from outside world to see if you can get better at your filmmaking by collaborations, right? It has to be a combination.
Another thing about encouraging, you know, your technicians or your performers to go other places is that once you build that trust, their victories become your victories as well. So then you're then able to access, you know, other resources that you might not have had previously because, you know, you've worked with this, whatever, a DP who got a job on a bigger project, and now he has those connections. He has that ability to work with that different type of equipment that you may not have had access to before, and being prepared for failure. You know, just not everything's going to come out exactly the way you want all the time. You know, and learning from that is very, very important. Even, you know, with Roger Malley, it feels like, and having spent a lot of time with him over the last couple of years, it feels like he just kind of walks in and magic happens, and it doesn't ever work like that. Like even for someone at that level, there's always a lot of challenges and frustrations and overcoming things and figuring out ways to get through stuff. But he has a core crew of technicians that he trusts and who trust him and will do anything. They'll do anything to make his vision work. And yeah, of course, that's going to be a little bit easier when you've got millions and millions of dollars to work with. But it's going to also make your job easier when you're working with thousands and thousands of dollars.
There are a couple of qualities that you would look for. First thing is like, do they know their craft well, which is easy to look at their past work and all that. But beyond that, it is the other elements of how well can they communicate? Are they punctual? I mean, can they make compromises without losing the essence? And that means that they have to fully talk to the rest of the team members. And so when you have somebody who has a good combination of those, you probably want to go back to them again and again.
How academically are pitch decks presented in those festivals or schools? How are they taught? Also, from the non-film school background, I would also like to know, like, how do you approach pitching, like pitching your project?
Pitching can go two ways. So one is pitching to the studio, but when we are taking it to the studio, we are usually going in with a team that, hey, this is my project, but I have this actor attached, I have so-and-so composer or DP attached. So the second aspect is pitching to these guys and getting them on board, which is from previous point of what Sindhuji was saying, that when we are pitching to crew members to come on board and join the project, for them it should feel like they are going to get the top of their own pyramid when they come on this project. So when I'm directing or producing the project, it's not just me as a director who will outshine, the DP will outshine everybody else by the way they photograph, same goes for composer, same for the editor. So each department has to have that agency or sense of freedom while working on it, that their creative freedom is completely allowed to be explored on the project. So once that part of pitching is also important, so that they are on board. And once you have a decent team set, pitching to the studios becomes a simpler process than pitching by yourself saying, this is my script. Because when you walk in with a script and say you are a first time or a second time filmmaker, more often than not, the studio, if they love the project, they'll just take the script from you and you will be pushed out. Or they'll say you can stay on board, but we won't let you direct this one. Maybe join us for the next project. Or if it's a TV show, they'll say you can direct season 2, but for season 1 you can assist somebody else. So when you go in with a team, when you go in with, hey, this is me on the project, this is my composer, my DP, my producer, editor, that gives an impression that you already have worked enough in the industry to have that kind of a team, and you know what you're doing. So the studio job of pitching becomes much simpler that way.
If you are going to some place like Film Bazaar or another film market that I've been to quite a bit is the Fantasia Frontiers Market, which is a genre film market that takes place in Montreal. They have an event in Cannes. But having watched a lot of pitches, the more prepared, the more you know exactly what you need, the more likely people are to come and approach you and say, we want to help you finish this project. You know, if you know your budget, you know you've secured a certain amount of that budget, you've researched, done the research to help people that are going to help you finish that project, So, for example, when you go to somewhere like Film Bazaar, they have all the local government agencies there that will talk about, you know, tax incentives and rebates for filming in particular places and that sort of thing that helps you to then, you know, firm up what you exactly need. Because if you're going to certain places, you know, they might have, you know, a 40% tax rebate for shooting in that location. That means you're bringing down your overhead costs by quite a bit. And so knowing that in advance makes your project more attractive. You know, if your project is finished and you're looking for maybe just post-production support, like a lot of times film markets will allow you to take your work in progress films there if it is good enough. Sometimes there are awards that will, you know, give you a certain amount of money for post-production services or in-kind services for other parts of the project as well. So pitching is very complicated at that level because, you know, you see a lot of these independent films, and at the beginning of you know, even independent films, there's 12 different producers on board, and, you know, sometimes that's just what it takes to get the movie made. It's not always going to be just one angel investor who comes in and drops $1 million on you and lets you do whatever you want. That's not really realistic. So having someone who understands that on board, someone who understands the financial aspects, having a producer on board is always good. Like a lot of the filmmakers that I've seen make really, really good projects have had like long-standing relationships with producers. And so having someone there, if you are an introvert director or a writer who is not used to being on a microphone all the time, having someone there who is going to be very, very helpful as well. You know, you need someone to help you sell if that's what you need. So,
talk about in the context of you know, you're trying to get your first feature film made and you're talking to the producers. In that context, I think the pitch deck itself is not. I mean, it's necessary. It's like the first step, like a gate, crossing the gate kind of thing. But when you're talking to a producer who made a few films already, they're looking at, you know, do you have the attitude, what it takes to make a feature film? Do you have the skill, like not all the skills, but like, you know, the storytelling skill? Do you have the skill to make the feature film? And are you sincere? Are you, is he being like, you know, trying to bluff, or, you know, he has like a genuine story, he's very passionate about it, he sincerely wants to, does he sincerely want to get it done or not? These are the qualities they look for. So, I mean, if you're going to a producer meeting, I think go like really well prepared, and then be sincere, just be honest, be yourself, and that'll be off. I mean, they may not make your film, but they will like you, they want to talk to you maybe at a later point of time and stuff like that.
I don't stick to one sort of pitching. So I kind of, you know, like, I mean, it works for me and I like to do that. I mean, you know, I take this up as a little challenge. So, you know, the pitch deck is a long read, you know, like not many people like reading so much. So, you know, like if I'm giving a pitch deck, then it would be like really short. Give a little insight and build that intrigue into the story so that, you know, they'll call you. In the Telugu film industry, you know, because there is no studio setup sort of a thing that we have. But we do have a studio setup sort of a pitching when it comes to the OTT platforms like Netflix or Amazon or something. So they work in a very different way. So let's say I'm just making a movie in rural India, and then, you know, your pitch will be going to people of different levels in the studio. Somebody who doesn't even know remotely about our country or about the place that where you go to. So your pitch has to read, because, you know, they're going to read it. So it has to read very well. So, but I've done a lot of video pitches that has kind of helped me a lot. We made a small pitch video. I mean, you know, shot a small 3-minute trailer, you know, giving an insight into the tone, the dialogue, the temperament of the whole film, the tone and visual of the whole film. And that kind of helped me get appointments with so many producers across the film industry. So, you know, like obviously not everybody will like the story, or, you know, like it's not possible to make a film with everybody, but that kind of really helped, because, you know, like they don't have to read it, and as you said, it also serves the attention span process, you know. And then when we were doing Gandhi Tata Chetu, so it was again a different sort of a pitch, because we did crowdfunding for it, and then we made a pitch without the story, nothing. It was just the director talking about why she wants to make the film, and then I added in saying how we are friends and why we want to make the film, and that was what got us our investment. So you know, like I try to change the pitch, so you know, I don't stick to one sort of a pitch. So every film, depending on whom I'm pitching to, so I kind of, and the kind of genre that I'm doing, so I kind of change the pitch to it.
So what to pitch? Your past, when I say past, the portfolio, your collaborators, and obviously what's your vision, right? So these three segments are really important. Again, even though I had 0% approval rates with my pitchings, I definitely had a lot of takeaways from each and every one of them. So these three are very important factors. The first one being your portfolio. When I say portfolio, it's not the cumulative use of all your short films combined. It's the creativity, or it's the quality of your short films. It's the quality of making that should show up. See if you can compile a reel with all your short films and make it compelling enough so that the producer, the person, you know, they're here to stay in the industry. So that has to be compelling. That's the first part. And the collaborators, you know, they definitely add weight. So let's say you have known people on board by the time you reach out to the executives of the studios, you know, that definitely builds credibility for your project. The third part, you know, the vision. So that's something that keeps evolving. When I say evolving, it's not the vision, but the way we pitch our vision, right? Back in those days, it used to be a white paper, an A4 paper with all the set of scenes and your ideas, blah, blah, blah. And then slowly, a good guy came up with this idea of pitch deck, and that actually revolutionized how do we pitch our vision to the studios. But again, I don't call it a stale idea these days. People are still doing pitches with static images, but I would say, again, this is coming from my personal experience, take advantage of the AI. So the pitch that I worked on recently, because it has been making some noise, and I see more than good chances of it knocking the doors. I actually used AI again with fair usage policy, meaning I've used multiple tools like Midjourney and Runway ML, Midjourney to generate images based on my prompt. When I say my prompt, it's my vision. Say I put the text, it gives me churns out the images, and then I plug them into Runway ML, which generates videos out of those images. So what that does to your pitch is, it's an image again is worth 1,000 words, but a video is worth 1,000 images, right? Video of 7 minutes, you're talking about thousands of images, right? So what that does is it quickly grabs the attention of the producer, and they cannot, you know, just waver around, because they're actually intrigued by the world building, the vision, what the director or producer has on top of his mind or her mind. So see if you can come up with something, you know, that shows your vision. What's the world building? How does your character look like? What's the location settings? You know, all those things, you know, those can be generated using AI. It's at your disposal. I'm not saying, you know, you can do pretty much everything with AI, but at least instead of you trying to shoot something real and then show it as a demo to the producer, you can be at your laptop and, you know, make a demo video of what your vision is, and that's, I feel, is more compelling than a static pitch.
This new craze that we are seeing in Western audience towards Indian cinema, do you think the genre film festivals need to be taken more seriously by the Indian filmmakers too, and that could be a new avenue, new diaspora totally?
So, working in the festival circuit that I work in, like you said, with genre film festivals, we work specifically with horror films, action films, crime films, fantasy films, things like that, right? And so what those film festivals are looking for are new things, like things that you haven't seen, things that their particular audiences haven't seen. It's easier to accomplish something, big ideas in short form. So, you know, starting off with shorts is a really great way to get those big ideas out there. Another recent experience that I had was, and this kind of goes toward pitching also, is listening to the producers, or listening to the financiers, or listening to whoever you're pitching to, because, you know, maybe you go in there with an idea, and you go in there with a sizzle reel, or you go in there with some sort of CV of your work, and then they come back and say, well, you know, this isn't going to work right now, but we're working on this, and you might be the perfect person for this project. And so that actually happened earlier this year. It was a very quick turnaround. A found footage horror film series called VHS has been going on for like the last 10 years. And in January of this year, the producer of the series reached out to me and said, you know, we've been doing this for 10 years. We've never had anyone from India or South Asia do anything. Like, do you know anybody who could contribute? And so I asked around, and I found a guy, Sripal, who ended up making a short film for them. And you know, I went through a bunch of options, and I looked at he sent me his sizzle reel, and it was all found footage stuff. And I was like, okay, well, you are exactly the person these people want. You know, and so it wasn't his film. He's still pitching his films. You know, he's still trying to work and working, you know, successfully. But because of those sort of relationships and being able to listen and say, you know, well, this is something that that no one has seen in this series. Like I said, found footage, not something that India is terribly well known for. But he's a horror buff, and of the sort of genres that travel the world, well, horror is one of them. Horror, like, fear is a universal emotion, and even though it may look different coming from different cultures, the feeling is the same. And so that makes it an easy one. You know, action, obviously, with our action is universal. Drama and comedy don't travel quite as well. Comedy specifically is very local. So I think that there's an eagerness for people who are in my position, and people who patronize the film festivals that I work with, that they want to see something new. They want you to show something that they've never seen before. One thing about genre is that it's very broad. You know, they're just as excited about a film that's made for $2,000 as they are for one that's made for $20 million. As long as the story is good and you are taking some chances. And so I think, you know, thrillers are really a great way to do that. You can do decent thrillers for moderate budgets. You know, it doesn't require all the special effects and things that, like, sometimes horror fantasy films will require. But yeah, I mean, I would love to, and I've been begging for years. Like, I know that you want to make money, but try and go overboard. Like, we had that last year, also with Kill, that went overboard. You know, in every way, but that's what the audience was looking for.
Yeah.
You know, and it was very successful. So I definitely think there's room for that.
I think it was a great discussion. Thanks, everyone. The key words I am taking away from these, starting from passion, collaboration. We're talking about being honest to your idea, and then keeping out your eyes open and making sure that you're presenting it in a way that the people who want to back your projects can have the same belief in you. But thanks a lot, everyone. It was hopefully helpful for a lot of people over here. And